All right, welcome back. So you've got a little bit of CSS practice. We've done some basic properties with like font and background, things like that. Time to get on into layout. So layout is a very important topic because it's important that your users see the page, presented exactly the way you want it. And I'll warn you that layout is a little trickier than what most people think, right? Like most people think layout's going to be like really easy because you just want to move something in place. But I'd say it's harder than you want to get things to look exactly the way you want. So we're going to do some practice, mainly with moving, boxes around and making sure we understand the rules. The right way to do layout, if you're really in an application, is to make a mock of what you want, and then to transfer that into CSS and HTML, and then producing the thing that matches your mock, right? And so that's what you're really trying to learn. But in order to make that leap, you really have to understand the rules for CSS in the middle so that you can effectively make that happen without too much extra clutter. So that's the goal for this time. So we're hopefully going to be able to understand when things flow with the page, when they don't. You'll understand the box model by the end of this. You'll be able to make your own layouts, and you'll be able to describe the main properties we're going to look at today are float, position, and display, and the interactions of those guys. And there's some interesting things, and hopefully you'll learn a lot. Just to share, float, position, and display have been around for a long, long time. And to be honest, I kind of thought there's some new stuff out, which we won't cover today, new stuff out called like Flexbox. And I thought that once the Flexbox standard was established, that I would no longer need to teach, just position, display, float. But that's not really what's happening. Really, people are using like some of the new stuff, like for the major page layout, but then all the little elements inside of it, they're still making heavy use of these more traditional layout techniques. So this one's about the traditional layout techniques, and someday in the future we'll talk about Flexbox and all the cool things you can do. So our first lesson here, what we're going to do is we're going to just do a demo. I like to start things with a demo. So Google made this layout demo that I took whenever I was there, and it was fun, and you're going to do it as well. But the idea is you kind of add one rule at a time, and you see what happens. I'll do a couple rules with you. I'll make sure I can get it downloaded, and then I'll turn you loose on it. So in order to do this demo, this walkthrough, you're going to have to go ahead and download the code for this unit. You're going to need this code anyway once you start doing lessons. So just go ahead and follow this link. It, of course, takes you to a GitHub site where you can download the zip file. And I won't bother walking you through every step, but download it, extract it, and put the CSS Layout Basics folder into your static folder of your web dev links project and open it up in Eclipse. All right, once you've got it into the right place, you should be able to open up Eclipse. You should be able to hit refresh or just click F5, and you should see the Layout Basics pop in to your static folder. So the thing that we want now is code used in lecture. So if you expand this out, you should find a Google walkthrough. There's actually two copies of this Google walkthrough. One you're going to do kind of at the beginning of this unit, and then the other at the end of this unit. So the first thing you're going to want to do is right-click on this guy. You're going to want to open it in two places. You're going to want to open it up in Chrome, so you can say open it up in the system editor, and you can look at what it looks like to start with. And then you're also going to need to open it with the HTML editor. Sorry, it's off the screen. I say open with HTML editor, and it opens it up over here. So what have we got? Let's just kind of take a look at what we got. Let's start with the HTML. So just kind of scroll down to the HTML. You can see that there's a class or an ID called WD. I think that stands for web development. I can't remember. -C for the container, and then there's a box 1, 2, and 3. And if you flip over to the code, you can see that, yeah, sure enough, there's a box 1, box 2, box 3. Then there's some text down here to remind you what is the goal of this exercise. And the goal is to think about whether something's in the flow or out of the flow. That means, does it get like rendered in its right place on the page, or is it separate on its own? And then is the display block or inline or inline block, which is another option. So those are the main things you're wanting to think about as you're going through this exercise. Going back over the code, you can see that there's that text. There's a little commented out thing that you'll do at the end, right? So don't worry about that just yet. There's some CSS rules that are in an embedded tag. These CSS rules, there's a chunk that says don't edit this area, If you look at the things that are in here, you can see that the container that's around it has a blue border. You can go look at that on your image. Each individual box has a dark gray border around it. It also has a height of 150, which you saw because it was really tall, right? And then each of them have a color, red, yellow, or light blue. So it's a pretty simple set of things there. They also all have an opacity, so if they overlap, you can kind of see one behind the other. And then what we're going to do, we're going to start together and you're going to finish, is bringing up one rule at a time and seeing the effect that has on the page. So let's just kind of do the first one here. So they've got a rule here, and we'll just kind of bring it up. And so what this does is this is going to set every div that's inside the container, so those 3 divs, it's going to have a width of 150. So what you're going to do is you're just going to make that change and then refresh the page. I recommend you get your page such as, you can kind of do code and your page together. I've got problems with that. And you can see that the effect was to make the width only 150 instead of taking up the full width. So you can see that that was important. You can also see that this blue box still goes the whole way. This only changed the ones on the inside. And then I'll just kind of add a couple more. So the next one was if you change the display mode to inline, what effect would that have? And then if you come in here and you hit refresh, you can see that changing the display to inline dramatically changes this page, right? So there's some things that have huge impacts. So that height rule that we set, blown away, completely ignored. That width rule that we set, blown away, completely ignored. And so it's things like this that we're going to talk about in this unit. Why are those things ignored with this one little rule? So go down through here, add one rule at the time. By the way, you can see that there's some comments on here. Why does this do nothing? Make sure that when you add that rule, you delete that comment, right? So make sure you delete that comment and you only add the rule. As you get near the very bottom, there's a comment that says to go uncomment that HTML. So you'll do that just by taking off the beginning and the ending of the HTML comments. And hopefully you'll be able to finish this whole thing. Really what I want you to do, don't take forever with it. Just kind of see some of the rules that we're going to be using in this unit. And just kind of give yourself an introduction to some of these layout techniques that we're going to be talking about. All right, we'll see you next time. Take it easy.